Hello my dear student, in this class I will teach you about the chapter dynamic. So first you remember that you have already studied about the chapter kinematic, and what is kinematic? The branch of physics or the branch of mechanics which deals with study of motion. In dynamic we will also study about the motion. But that is the difference between kinematic and dynamic is that in this chapter we have already studied the study of motion without going any color. That means why the body is in motion condition, that is not necessary to know. In this case, in kinematic chapter we have already studied that what type of motion, and motion can be divided into how many types. That is speed, acceleration, instantaneous speed, acceleration, velocity. All of the concept, equation of motion, all of the concept can be studied in kinematic. But why the motion occurs, or why the body is in motion condition, that content is studied in dynamic. That is the study of motion along with the cause. The motion can be developed से जिनिस हमें dynamic रे पढ़ना. Kinematic खाली पढ़ी थी motion, what is the meaning of motion and how many type of motion. But motion can be developed, that is studied in the dynamic. So clearly बुझलो. So dynamic रे भी हमें motion विषय पढ़ना, but along with the cause can be developed motion होचे से जिनिस हमें पढ़ना. आमने रखती the basic cause of motion is force. That is, suppose this is a football which is placed on the ground, and if we exert an external force on it, then this is football is in motion condition. But initially this football is at rest condition. But when we exert an force on this football, then this football is in motion condition. That means you must be remember that the basic cause of motion is force. So first we will briefly study about the force, because force is the basic cause of motion, and that cause can be studied in the dynamic chapter. So motion can be generated force. So what is force? How many type of force? And what happens when the force is exerted on a body? That all of the concept we can be studied in dynamic, because force is the cause of motion. Study of motion along with the cause, and that cause, the basic cause of motion is force. So in this class we will discuss about the force. So you noted that the force is basic cause of motion. The force is basic cause of motion. So first we will know about the exact definition of force. That's what is force. So what is force? Force it is an external agent. It is an external agent which is capable to change the state, that is rest or motion of a body. So what is force? Force is an external agent which is capable to change the state of a body, and state is that is rest or motion, and also we can be considered as direction. Rest, motion and direction, that is state of a body. That is, suppose this football is in motion condition, and if we apply a force on this football, then this football is going to be rest. And if this football is rest condition, if we apply external force, then this football is going to be motion condition. That means when we apply force, then this football is converted into, if it is motion condition, then it is at rest, and when it is at rest condition, then we apply force, then it is in motion. And suppose this is the direction of the motion of the football. If we exerted force along this direction, then this football is going to be this direction. That means this is the actual direction of football in moving condition. But if we apply force along this direction, then this football is going to be this direction. That means this is state. State means rest or motion, and also consider as direction. So if we apply force, then the body is change its position, that is rest to motion. If we apply force, then the body is converted into motion to rest, rest to motion, or changes direction. So simply you remember that force is an external agent which is capable to change the state of the body. So it is force. तो फोर्स टाइप ऑफ फोर्स हमें मन रखिबो गुडे रही कांटेक्ट फोर्स आउरे रहबा नॉन कांटेक्ट फोर्स. What is contact force? The force which is exerted between the actual contact of two body, that is called as contact force. And non-contact force, the force which is exerted between the without contact of the two bodies. That means the force which is exerted between two bodies when they are without contact, or there is no contact between the two bodies. Suppose example, if I push this board, then this is contact force. That means this force I will press, that means I say that this force is frictional force. So contact force is a frictional force is a type of contact force. The contact force means the force which is EXCERTV exerted in experience of applied between actual contact of two bodies. Actual contact of two bodies is called contact force. Example, frictional force. If I friction this, then inside the palms a force is developed which is called as frictional force, which is developed when these two palms is friction with each other. So frictional force is a contact force. अब अधिकार होगा तो मैं आगे पढ़ो हाउ द नॉन कॉन्टैक्ट फोर्स हमें अधिकार पढ़ो नॉन कॉन्टैक्ट फोर्स. So what is the meaning of non contact force? The force which is exerted without the contact of two bodies. For example, suppose this is a magnet and suppose this is iron, and if the iron is placed towards the magnet, then the iron is attract towards the magnet. I mean, if you chumbak पाखरे जब तुम लुहा को रखबो, with that iron is attract towards the magnet. But that force, suppose this is magnet and this is iron, and when this iron is placed inside the magnetic field in front of the magnet, just near the magnet, then this iron is moved towards the magnet. This is magnet. That means in this case there is some force. That force which due to this iron is moved towards the magnet, and that force is said to be magnetic force. And that force is exerted without contact of magnet and iron. तामने चुंबक और आयरन रो कांटेक्ट बिना ही ताकर भीतर गोटे फोर्स अछि जेन फोर्स रो काजी अट्रैक्ट होछि. और सिंपल जिनिसटा, if we throw a ball up, then the ball is falling towards the earth surface due to gravitational force. Clearly बुझलो, the gravitational force, magnetic force is type of non-contact force because they are cannot produce due to actual contact between the two bodies or source and bodies. So this is non-contact force. If I write the non-contact force for definition. So clearly what is kinematic? What kinematic means we have already studied that kinematic means study of motion. But study of motion without going any cause. Why the motion of the body is occurs? That is not necessary for study in kinematic chapter. In kinematic chapter only we study about the types of motion. What is speed, what is acceleration, what is velocity. But in dynamic we can also in this dynamic study of motion. But in this dynamic chapter we study about the motion along with the cause. That is why the body can be moved. And you must be remember that force is the basic cause of motion. Cause, why the body is moved, that cause we will discuss in dynamic chapter. And the basic cause of motion is force. So we have discussed about the force in the dynamic because the basic cause of motion is force. So what is force? Force is an external agent which is capable to change the state of a body. What is state? State means the body is at rest condition or in motion condition or in direction. That means if we apply force, then the body may be change its rest, may be change its motion, may be change its direction. So force is the basic cause of motion. So force may be divided into two types. One is contact force, another is non-contact force. So how can contact force is exerted? When two bodies is contact with each other, then there is a force exerted between them, and that force is called as contact force. And then frictional force is a type of contact force. And what is non-contact force? Non-contact force. The force exerted between the without contact of the two bodies. The force exerted without contact between two bodies and body and source. Source means the source will come force out. Suppose magnet force asuchi. So in this case, if we place a iron near the magnet, then there is no contact between iron and magnet is the source because from the magnet we get magnetic force. So without contact between the iron and source means magnet because the magnet produces magnetic force. So without contact between a body and the source, and that type of force which is exerted without contact between the body and source, that force is called as non-contact force. Example is magnetic force, gravitational force, and most of the force we can be considered as non-contact force, and you can be studied in second year and also the coming chapter of first year. So gravitational force is an important topic for you in your first chapter. Magnetic force you will study in second year. So this is all about the force. But force, the concept of force first given by the Newtons, Sir Isaac Newtons. That means the Newtons in 1617 give the concept of force, and he gave the three laws on the basis of motion. So that laws are called as law of motion, Newton's law of motion. So Newton's law of motion that you have already studied in lower class, that is 8th, 9th, 10th. You have already studied about the Newton's law of motion. Newton's law of motion. So first we have discussed about the Newton's first law. Newton's first law of motion. Newton's gave three laws on the basic of motion. So first we can write the all of these three laws, then discuss sequentially. The first law of motion. This law, Newton's first law of motion. Writing down Newton's first law of motion. This law states that everybody continue its state of rest or of uniform motion along in a straight line until or unless an external force impress on it. Then second law, first heading the, then sequentially one by one we discuss first law, second law and third law. First we have known that all of the three laws of Newton's. So second law of Newton's second law of motion, Newton's second law of motion. This law states that the force exerted on a body is directly proportional to the rate of change of momentum of their body. And then Newton's third law. Newton's third law of motion. Newton's third law of motion. This law states that every action heart is equal and opposite reaction. That means this is a very important question. In a question asks write three laws, Newton's three law of motion. So you will write Newton's first law, second law and third law. So let's start that. Newton's first law of motion states that everybody लेकिन चलो एवरीबॉडी continuous everybody continuous in its state of rest हाँ देखो everybody continuous in its state of rest of uniform motion along in a straight line until or unless an external force impress on it. What is the meaning of that? Suppose this is a body and suppose this is another body. Suppose this body moving along a straight line. This body is moving condition and this body moving along a straight line. And suppose this body is at rest condition. So until or unless we can apply the external force, the body cannot change its position. That means the body continuously state of rest or the continuously state of uniform motion along the straight line without the help of an external force. That means आमे force exerted नहीं करबा जाए तो हमर बॉडी जदी रेस्ट रे अछि रेस्ट रे रहबा और जदी बॉडी मूव करूची मींस मूव करू थिबा से जिनिसटा न्यूटन्स फर्स्ट लॉ कहिछि सो लेखा दैछे दिस न्यूटन्स फर्स्ट लॉ स्टेट दैट everybody continuously in state of rest तामने सब बॉडी तांको स्टेट रे रहबे केन स्टेट रे रहबे स्टेट मींस अवस्था केन अवस्था रे रहबे रेस्ट कंडीशन जे अछि रेस्ट कंडीशन रे रहबे और यूनिफॉर्म मोशन along in straight line जे मोशन कंडीशन रे रहउछि से मोशन कंडीशन ने रहबो केते बिल तक until or unless an external force impress on it जे पर्यंत नाको ऊपर किछि एक्सटर्नल फोर्स नहीं पड़थि क्लियरली बुझलो सो दिस इज न्यूटन्स फर्स्ट लॉ and this Newton's first law give the qualitative definition of force that you have defined the force, that is force is an external agent due to which the body changes position, and that definition of force is give Newton's first law. Because in this first law we can be say that there is no force, then the body is at rest condition, continuously at rest condition, or there is no force, then the body is in continuously motion condition. But if there is a force, then the body is change its position. That means it is rest, then it changes motion. And if the body is moving condition, then it, suppose the ball move करूचे, हमें apply करना force और ball की catch करना. That means that motion condition can be converted into rest when we apply force. So Newton's first law रू हमें force रो definition लानी because Newton's first law ही कही चे body ऊपर force नहीं पड़वा तो body जब rest रे होचे rest रे रहबा continuously rest रे रहबा और motion रे होचे motion में रहबा that is Newton's first law. जब हम vice versa देखमा उल्टे दमा body जब rest में होचे rest में रहबा motion में होचे motion में रहबा केते बिल तक रहबा जेते बिल तक तार ऊपर force नहीं पड़वा तो जब force पड़वा vice versa करो जब force पड़ले से कना तार अवस्था चेंज करो तो न्यूटन्स फर्स्ट लॉ रू हमें फोर्स रो डेफिनेशन हमें जानि पारबो ना असले न्यूटन सेकंड लॉ कहै छै जे बॉडी ऊपर जते फोर्स एक्सर्टेड हेबा दैट बॉडी गेट मोमेंटम ता माने सपोज दिस इज ए फुटबॉल and if we apply force then this football get momentum. What is the meaning of momentum? Momentum means मन रखिथिबो the amount of motion contained in a body. That means if we moves then our motion is said to be momentum because we have moved with our mass. That means देखो जदि गोटे बॉडीटा जदि मास सहित गति करबा मास सहित जदि तार वेलोसिटी हेबा the amount of motion contained in a body तापर बॉडी मोशन ता मास सहित हेबा that is considered as momentum. So आमे जदि फुटबॉल के पुश करमा means से momentum हेबा because फुटबॉल का मास सहित गति करबा आमे भी गति करूछु आमे मास सहित गति करूछु तो हमर टाके भी हमर गति के भी हम कहि पारबा मोमेंटम. तो जे कोनोसी बॉडीटा जदि मास सहित गति करबा मास विथ वेलोसिटी then that body is said to be in momentum. So आमे जेतेले फोर्स अप्लाई करमा फुटबॉल इज तो तमर मास से गति करबा सपोज m is the mass of football and v is the velocity when the force applied on the football, then v is the velocity with which the football can be moved. सर माने हम फोर्स अप्लाई करना बोले फुटबॉल का तार मास संग गति करबा तामे फुटबॉल का काना हबा मोमेंटम हबा आमे जेते अधिक फोर्स पकेमा फुटबॉल सेते मोमेंटम हबा आमे धीरे से फोर्स पकेमा फुटबॉल धीरे 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 गति कर आमे जदी अधिक फोर्स अप्लाई करमा ले फुटबॉल रो मोमेंटम भी अधिक हबा दैट इज given in Newton's second law. If we exerted more force, then the football get more momentum. तमे जेते अधिक फोर्स पकेबो फुटबॉल रो मोमेंटम सेते अधिक हेबा तमे तमे जेते जोर से फुटबॉल को लात मारिबो सेते जोर से तम फुटबॉल टा मोमेंट बा अधिक स्पीड रे पड़े बा. So that is Newton's second law, and you briefly study about the Newton's second law. That means force is directly proportional to rate of change of momentum. Momentum रो सिंबल होची p मने रखथिबो. एबा असला न्यूटन्स थर्ड लॉ कहिছে जे दिस लॉ स्टेट दैट एवरी एक्शन हैज इट इक्वल एंड अपोजिट रिएक्शन. तामाने जदि हम गुटे लोकर ऊपर एक्शन पकेमा ले से तार अपोजिट इक्वली तमर जते एक्शन पकेछ तार अपोजिट सेते रिएक्शन देबा. सपोज धरो तमे जदि गुटे बॉल के की बोर्ड ऊपर पकेबा पूरा बोर्ड ऊपर बम्बार्डेड करबो देखो तुम जेते जोर से बॉल के बम्बार्डेड करिछ बोर्ड ऊपर से बॉल टा सेते जोर से तमर आड़ के रिटर्न हेबा. ता माने बॉल टा तुम बोर्ड ऊपर का पकेला बोर्ड ऊपर सपोज दिस इज बोर्ड और ये बोर्ड ऊपर तुम बॉल टा पकेला एक्शन पकेला जदी बोर्ड प्रेजेंस नहीं था बॉल आकु पड़े था किंतु ड्यू टू प्रेजेंस ऑफ बोर्ड दिस बॉल convex with same velocity तुम जते वेलोसिटी रे स्पीड रे बम्बार्डेड करथिला सेते वेलोसिटी रे पड़े बिकॉज़ ई बॉल टा बोर्ड ऊपर जते एक्शन पकेला ई बोर्ड भी बॉल ऊपर सेते रिएक्शन पकेला. एक्शन रिएक्शन रो बहुत गुडा एग्जांपल अछि तुम निजे भी बुझो. देखो ई चॉक टा जदि हमें छाड़ी दामा से कान होची तळे के पड़ुची किंतु जते बेला हमें तार रास्ता रे जदि हम हाथ पापुली के रखि दम वैसे आउ तळकू नहीं आसे अच्छा ई चॉक जते डाउनवर्ड फोर्स द्वारा तळकू जाउची हमर पापुलीटा सेते अपवर्ड फोर्स द्वारा चॉक को बैलेंस करूची. मींस ई चॉक हमर पापुली ऊपर जते एक्शन पकेला हमर पापुली चॉक ऊपर सेते रिएक्शन पकेला जार द्वारा कि चॉक आ ऊपर के भी जाई नहीं पारी कि तळकू जाई नहीं पारी. जदि एक्शन अधिक आई थांता चॉक तळकू पड़े थांता बुझौची नहीं. सपोज धर इटा होछे टेबल ऊपर तमे बही रखिछ सो से बही रो मास तमको प्रेस करूछ जदि टेबल हटे देबल बही तळे पड़ी जेबा तामे बही टेबल ऊपर काना पकोछ एक्शन पकोछ. सिमिलर ड्यू टू प्रेजेंस ऑफ टेबल द बुक इज एट रेस्ट कंडीशन दैट मींस ई बुक ई बही जते एक्शन पकोछ ई टेबल टा तार ऊपर सेते रिएक्शन पकोछ जा द्वारा कि बुक तळकू आउ जाई नहीं पारबा बिकॉज़ टेबल टा से बुक ऊपर अपवर्ड रिएक्शन पकेला बिकॉज़ बुक को छाड़ी देबा तळ के जीवा तो बुक डाउनवर्ड फोर्स पकोछ जाके हम कहू एक्शन सेमति टेबल टा अपवर्ड फोर्स पकेला रिएक्शन जा द्वारा कि तम एक्शन जेते पडुचे टेबल भी सेते रिएक्शन पकोछ जा द्वारा कि बुक टा एक्शन लगा तळकू जाई नहीं पारबा कि रिएक्शन टेबल लगा के ऊपर के जाई नहीं पारबा बिकॉज़ इक्वल एंड ऑपोजिट एक्शन रिएक्शन पडुचे. सो से तक बुक इज एट रेस्ट कंडीशन. जान में सिंपली मन रख जे बही को हम जेते बेले टेबल ऊपर रखमा से तल को जीवा पाई केन फोर्स पकेबा डाउनवर्ड फोर्स mg पकेबा छाड़ो से परे कहमा तो बही तल को जीवा पाई डाउनवर्ड फोर्स पकेबा तो बही रो डाउनवर्ड फोर्स जदी अधिक हेबो तो से बही तल को पड़ेबो किंतु ड्यू टू प्रेजेंस ऑफ टेबल द बुक इज एट रेस्ट कंडीशन. व्हाई बिकॉज़ द बुक इज आल्सो exerted equal amount of force on the table is also exerted equal amount of force on the book in opposite direction. That means it book ta table ऊपर जते downward force पकेला that is action सेफ्टी फोर्स टा ई टेबल टा बुक ऊपर पकेला opposite direction में reaction और समान फोर्स पकेला कहां जे बिकॉज़ जदी एक्शन अधिक आई थांता बेले बुक तल के पड़े थांता टेबल रिएक्शन अधिक आई थांता बुक ऊपर के पड़े थांता किंतु दुईटा फोर्स समान पड़ुचे बुक जेते तल के डाउनवर्ड फोर्स पकोचे एक्शन हिसाब रे टेबल भी सेते बुक ऊपर अपवर्ड फोर्स पकोचे रिएक्शन हिसाब रे सो सेटा जे बुकटा तुम टेबल ऊपर रेस्ट कंडीशन में रोची नले एक्शन अधिका हेले बुक तल को पळेबा आ रिएक्शन अधिका हेबा टेबल रिएक्शन अधिका हेबा बोले बुक ऊपर को पळेबा किंतु एक्शन और रिएक्शन पेयरटा तुम इक्वल एंड अपोजिट हेले भी समान पड़ुची बुक जेते टेबल ऊपर फोर्स पकोची सपोज बुक टेबल ऊपर फोर्स पकेला 5 न्यूटन टेबल ऊपर फोर्स पकेला 5 न्यूटन जहाद्वारा कि बुकटा तल को भी नहीं पारे कि ऊपर को भी नहीं तो सिंपली मन रखिथिबो एवरी एक्शन हैज इट इक्वल एंड अपोजिट रिएक्शन दैट इज न्यूटन्स थर्ड सो आज ये था आम ब्रीफली एक्सप्लेन करबो न्यूटन फर्स्ट लॉ सेकंड लॉ थर्ड लॉ इन नेक्स्ट क्लास थैंक यू।